Welcome back to the Republic Brothers Podcast. I'm Mike, he's Matt. Today's January 28th, 2026, and this is episode 31. We're starting in Minnesota where the ICE protests are still unfolding. We'll also talk about another potential government shutdown. And then, because we all need a break, we'll end with the most important controversy of the week. PETA versus Punxsutawney Phil. Let's get started. Before we get into the rest of the show, we want to share a great conversation we had. This time with lawyer and author Dennis Brennan. Take a listen. All right, we're joined today by Dennis Brennan. He's a lawyer and author who spent years inside the legal system. Dennis, we appreciate you being here. Before we jump in, can you give us a little bit of your background and what led you here?
Sure. Well, like you said, I'm an attorney. I have been an attorney for 35 years. I'm based out of Illinois. During the course of that time, I've practiced just about every type of law, but primarily it's been in real estate development, civil law, real estate transactions, lobbying, government relations. Although I have represented a few criminal cases, which always have good stories, and at times just adapted, moved on from one type of law to the other just to survive at times. And, part of that, I studied journalism in college, had worked for a small community newspaper, owned one myself for a while.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool, but there's not much money in that.
Yeah.
So, that's where, you have to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, also held political office, school board member, board president for 6 years, was a village trustee, library trustee, never made it to the big time, but advised some candidates running for various offices, including county, statewide, congressional offices.
Gotcha. Well, so what made you want to get into law? And then I guess kind of going in from that, what led into the book?
Yeah, I think, law was kind of, okay. It was always in my head, because my parents came from Ireland. So, the thing my mom used to always say is, get out of bed or you'll be out digging ditches. Apparently that was the worst job you could have, digging ditches. Although I think these guys do okay digging ditches. So I'm not sure she was right about that, but anyhow, it made you had to go to school. You were going to do something. I think there was a big push then, hey, go be a lawyer. I had it in the back of my mind when I got out of college. My last year, I took the LSAT to go to law school, not thinking that I really would. I was all set for journalism, but again, the reality of money. I had 2 job offers. One was in Arkansas, one was in Iowa, one was for $13,000 and one was for $9,000. Now it's a lot of years ago, but I was working part-time in a grocery store making $14,000.
Oh, wow.
So I'm thinking, wait a minute, if I'm not taking a pay cut to work full-time, I'll go to law school. And so I did do that and, ended up practicing law more than the journalism. So, and now I think we come up to the book. It's really something recent. A friend of mine wrote a book about Aaron Burr. And this guy is a political consultant, does a lot of Democrat campaigns. We don't always agree on politics, but, it doesn't mean we don't arm wrestle or anything. I think I would take him in an arm wrestling match, but he just never wants to. But he does argue about politics, and he brought the book to me and said, here I wrote this book. I was shocked. Like, wow, you wrote a book? I don't know anybody that wrote a book. I barely have people that have read books. So to find someone that wrote a book, I was really impressed. And he came back, I don't know, maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks later and said, so what do you think? And I said, brilliantly written, but I think you missed the big point here is that the way Aaron Burr was treated during his time is how Donald Trump has been treated. And this is before Trump won his latest election. And of course, he looked at me like I'm nuts. which I'm used to. And, we had a little back and forth about, why I'm right and he's wrong. And in the end, I said, I think I'm going to go ahead and write a book about this because you've missed the story. Well, it's a great story about Burr. So I started digging into other, books about Burr, other research to find out more about him. And I thought, boy, I know I'm right now. I've got a lot of this stuff compiled, which is tough. Once you start compiling it all, now you got to figure out how do you put this into some kind of a book format. And started writing it, and it went pretty quickly then. Actually, it took more time for, the publishing people to actually print it, to get it all set up, formatted. It's much more time than it took for me to write it. Like, what do you guys do with this part-time? Why is it taking so long? So everything was always delayed to get it done. But, eventually it was done. And now we have it out there, on sale.
Yes. From your perspective, what do you think the public gets wrong about the legal system the most? And can you explain how much politics kind of plays a factor in that?
Yeah. I mean, especially you'll see it as you get in the federal system. You follow any of the court cases now. A lot of what I do almost every time when I read a story about a case without reading the case decision is you start thinking, wow, that sounds wrong. I wonder who appointed that judge. And we shouldn't be doing that. But, and I'd say 99 times out of 100, you can guess which side that judge is on, who appointed them. And it's a problem. It makes the system political because the federal courts aren't supposed to be like that. You're a judge for life. So why are you worried about what your benefactor did? At the state level, it's a little different for us. At least in Illinois, you have to run, and then you have to be retained. It's another election. So you could see some politics being there. But honestly, I think there's more now in the federal system with these appointments. And that's getting in. You don't even get into people they're appointing. I mean, some of the people you sit there and say, first of all, how did they even get through law school? But how are they a judge? And there's always been some of that where you go into court and you wonder, you can't say it to the judge because you can't tell them, hey, I think you're a fool. But at times you'll have that feeling. I had one judge, I had done a case. We did litigation for someone who had a mechanics lien, which means they had done work on property. They weren't paid. So we filed a mechanics lien, and then I filed a lawsuit when they, refused to pay on the lien. And that was all following the statute. After a while, myself and the client were no longer thinking the same. I withdrew from the case. And there were 3 attorneys after me. I think it was 3. Well, the third one, I guess, screwed, or fourth one, I guess he'd be the fourth attorney, somehow screwed up the case. And this client then sued all of us. I'm like, I'm out of the case. And you first get that, you get the lawsuit and you think, oh my God, did I forget about a case? That'd be, what do I have some kind of problem? I'm talking about judges and I can't remember. And I drove to the courthouse, which was like an hour and a half away from where I'm at, because this isn't a usual place I was doing law. And I get the file. I ask for the file. They give it to me. At that point, it's a hard copy file. I'm looking through it to find, did I withdraw? And I find it. I'm like, yes, I've got the paper. I get the clerk to make a copy of it. I'm like, okay, this ought to be easy. I'll call the attorney. I'll be out of this case. I call the attorney. He's like, I don't care. I'm like, what do you mean you don't care? I withdrew. And I had withdrawn like 2 years earlier. I don't even know what's going on with this case. I go to court and everybody's there. We had like all the attorneys that were being sued, the attorney suing us. There's a judge there and she starts, I think at like 9:30. It's going back and forth arguing. I'm only arguing to get myself out of this thing. And now it's like 2 o'clock. I had a place up in Wisconsin. I had told my wife, yeah, we'll stop there, then we'll head to Wisconsin. It'll be 15 minutes as soon as I explain this to the judge. She's sitting in the back watching me as a pro and probably real impressed. It was taking me 4 hours to get out of this thing. Eventually, the judge, she wants to bring us all back. This is a Friday. She wants to bring us back Monday. I'm like, wait. I start basically yelling at her that I should be out of the case. I don't care about these other people, but I have the withdrawal. This is the law. And I only think she let me out because I was kind of mad and screaming, which is a terrible reason. I don't know if she agreed with me on the law. I think she just wanted me to never come back, which I never did. But it's like, what kind of judge is that? Like, I was out of the case, which I should have been, but it shouldn't be because I yell louder than the other guy.
Yeah, we're kind of seeing it now with these judges. We just had that magistrate judge that didn't want to sign off on that warrant for Don Lemon.
Yeah.
And everyone says, oh, we can see where this is going. And then it turns out, I guess his wife is related or works for Ellison in Minnesota. So
yeah,
it's like every case you see, you can point back to who the judge is and what happened, and you can figure out what's going on.
Well, it's the same way in New York with the judges there. The family relationships on the Trump cases, and it's like, wait a minute, you've got one judge, the daughter's making money off the Democrats, he's contributing money. Whatever happened to recusing yourself?
Yeah,
I believe it's probably in every state, but I know here, if you have a conflict, you have to recuse yourself. You can't just stay in the case because you hate the guy. That's a great reason, or you think it's an exciting case. But yeah, there's too many times now where we see judges with major conflicts, or even prosecutors who are deciding to bring a case. Hey, back out of the case, have someone else do it. It's not, have someone appointed. This isn't that hard. Yes. So, but it's a problem if you're out there, you're watching it, you're saying, what kind of system do we have? It's bad enough if you're an attorney, but if you're just a regular Joe Blow citizen, not sure of what's happening, I think the first thing you think of is there's corruption everywhere in these courts, and it only takes one judge in the whole circuit to make the whole circuit stink.
Yep. Absolutely.
How much does social media and media coverage in general affect a lawyer and a judge? I would hope they're not paying attention to it, but I would imagine some are. Yeah,
I think they are, especially now, because I think social media affects everything. It affects whether someone's charged, originally, what they're charged with, good or bad. It's like, should someone be charged? Maybe, maybe not. Should you, it's kind of like cameras in the courtroom where you see all this attention. Back when I was in school, we didn't have cameras in the courtroom. And, they said the reason would be that attorneys would try to be Hollywood stars and act. And yes, probably would have. But, now I think it's mostly these judges. I saw, the famous one is O.J. Simpson with Judge Ito. He became like a celebrity unto himself and decided it's all about him. And the judge in the case with Charlie Kirk's killer, the guy that's the name escapes me right now, but Robinson, I think it is.
Tyler Robinson.
Yeah, he that judge, I was watching it and I'm like, they are bringing up the silliest motions, and the judge really had the camera was on him, and it seemed like he was more concerned about that and what the reaction would be in the news media, on social media. It's like, just do your job. I mean, this isn't going to make you a star, but obviously, if you're on social media, you post anything, you got people on both sides, and some people are attacking, some people are vicious in their attacks.
Yeah.
And, they can make you or break you. And I suppose these judges also fear for their lives at times. I mean, if they're going to go after a Supreme Court justice, which, Kavanaugh, they were going to kill him. So I would say, and we had a judge here, the husband was shot. They were trying to get her, actually. And, so there are instances like that, but that wasn't a case that was built on social media. So you add to the mental illness and the just stupidity of people that we have out there when you bring in social media, because now everybody thinks their opinion is so important that they have to be heard. Yeah. I mean,
and it's
you ever see these videos?
People on the internet.
Oh God! Well, you look at these videos. I always get a kick out of people like they'll either have their hair all messed up or they're wearing like a robe or they're in the car. Like you're in the car videoing yourself. It's like, I don't know. Wait till you get inside. What? This isn't the best place to be videoing yourself. And and I have something so important to say. I had to say it before I, put on some clothes. What are you doing? So I think that level. What's that?
I said that's a common theme. Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's like, what? I guess one guy does it, and then everybody says, "Hey, I'll do it." Mm-hmm. But they can't think of a better place to do that. I mean, what's next?
Well, some of them have to say it right away because they'll forget what they were thinking about.
Yeah, they saw those post it, and now they have to make a video about it. Use somebody else's opinion right now before they lose the post.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of funny because with social media, we've all decided we're important and that opinion matters. I guess there's some good to that because before it was so locked down with just the major television networks. Years ago, that's all in the newspapers. Nobody else could really have an opinion because you couldn't get it out. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we've gone the other way now. Everybody has an opinion and they're sharing it. And it's, I don't know which one's better. Maybe they're both bad. It's like, I think we should have more opinions, but not on every subject.
Yeah. There's definitely some people giving their opinions that shouldn't be voicing them out loud. But and then there's the people too that they are very loud about their opinion, and then when you try to fact check them or just have a conversation with them, they immediately start calling you names and telling you you're a bigot or you're racist or what. Like they're allowed to have the opinion, but you're not, basically.
Yeah, and that failure to distinguish between opinion and fact is amazing. It's like we see it now with the latest Minnesota shooting. I don't know. I've seen these videos. I can't really tell what happened. I see,
either.
I wish I could, and maybe we'll get if they have any cameras, maybe from the officers, maybe it'll be better. But I doubt it because those cameras are always moving around, and it'll probably be just bodies, up against each other.
And a lot of them are looking down, so the cameras will be looking at the ground, and you won't see much.
But you have these people on social media all weekend who are so convinced of what happened, and I'm like, aren't we watching the same video? Because I don't see this. It could have happened that way. I'm not sure, but I don't see that. And if you say that, it's like you're the bad guy. It's like, I'm just asking that you show where that is in the video because I don't find it.
Yeah, exactly. I think too that's another thing we've been talking about a lot lately is Minnesota and the protests. We had Adam Swart on a couple weeks ago. He's the CEO of Crowds on Demand, and we were asking him about how his company works with their protests, and he flat out told us we interview every single person that we pay to do our protests, and if you're out there breaking the law, blocking the street, if you're not doing exactly what we tell you to do, and that's being a law-abiding citizen and standing on the sidewalk to do your protest, he's like, we won't hire you because their method, what they're doing in Minnesota right now, is not working.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I hate this kind of protest. I mean, I don't mind if you know, want to peacefully protest. You certainly have the right to do that.
Yeah.
But the one thing you do see with these videos is uh, the gentleman Pretty, whatever his name
Yeah.
was. Um, he confronted the officers.
Yep.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not nuts.
With somebody else. They were focused on someone else, and he inserted himself into the
Yeah.
situation.
I've said repeatedly, if he had just stayed home, he'd still be alive.
Well, absolutely. If he stayed home, there's no doubt. But even if he would have just stayed up on the sidewalk
Yeah.
Yeah.
by the building and shouted things, he would have been fine. I mean, it is aggravating when you hear those videos and the whistles. It's like, oh my God, how do these guys? They must plug their ears with something because it's aggravating to me watching it.
Mhm.
And I do think these people, you put yourself in that kind of situation. Now, nobody deserves, to be shot, but they don't.
Yeah.
You are putting yourself in the situation, and it's difficult to feel a lot of sorrow for someone that's doing that because all you had to do is protest peacefully. It's kind of funny when you look back at peaceful protests, like Martin Luther King. You led a peaceful protest because a violent one he knew wouldn't work. That would be a problem for him.
Yep.
That's how you would get crushed. And somehow it's changed. It's gone, a complete turn, that being violent is somehow going to make your case. And maybe it does to an extent. I think some people are sympathetic towards that and forgetting that you're putting yourself in the position. It's the same way if you see these videos on social media. We're back to social media and how it ruins everything. But there's a lot of these where people are stopped by the police. No, I've been stopped a lot over the course of my life. You get to a certain age, they quit pulling you over. And I asked an officer, I was coaching his son, and I said, I used to be pulled over almost on a daily basis. Maybe a slight exaggeration, but it seemed like every day. And now, I said, it's been 10 years. And he looked at me, and this is probably 10 years ago, and he said, well, you're old. You're not doing, you probably have something important when you're speeding. We're not going to pull you over. I'm like, yeah, I was always pulled over when I was in my 20s. And he's like, yeah, we had nothing important. So, I always acted respectfully, though. I still do if I could spend years, but you kind of know, okay, they're going to need my license. Where do I keep my insurance card? Things like that. Okay, I've got to give this to them. They're going to ask the same thing.
Yeah. It's a minor inconvenience. If you just cooperate, you'll be on your way in 5 minutes.
Yeah. But people now, I see these things where they say they don't want to, they'll show it and say they don't have to give it to them, which is wrong. It's false.
Yep.
And then they'll say they want a supervisor out there. Yes, let's waste resources. We'll have the whole police department out here to solve your little problem of speeding or whatever you did.
Mhm.
A lot of times the police will just, say, okay, if you're acting normally, because they're really just checking to see are there any warrants on you. They're not really looking to go
They're
to
looking
traffic
for major
court.
stuff.
Right.
If you cooperate, I'd be willing to bet it's at least 75%. They just tell you to get out of there if you cooperate and you didn't do anything really wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you're obnoxious, I think you're going to get a ticket. It's kind of like you're asking for it. You get you into that whole, if you go to a protest and start a riot, you probably are going to get hurt.
I don't think most people realize you don't fight traffic infractions or any rules you broke on the side of the street, though. You fight them in court.
Right. Yeah, I think, most of us probably do think that, but the ones that are getting videoed seem to have this idea that they can adjudicate it right there. Like somehow a supervisor is going to come out and take my word as the driver instead of the police officer that works with them.
Right.
Even though it's on camera.
Right.
Yeah.
My favorite ones are the sovereign citizen ones.
Yes. Right. It's like, what the heck is that? You know,
Mm-hmm.
They're like, I'm a sovereign citizen. Okay, well, you still have to have ID.
right? You're
Gotta
driving
give it
on
to
our.
them.
These are our streets. I don't know what country you think you're part of,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're public streets. We're going to make you actually follow the rules, and it is amazing when they come up with these things. And I think, who told them that? I don't know if they got this out of the internet or, who preached that kind of silliness. That because it's almost like these protesters. I mean, I look at them like they're pawns in this game, right? I saw where the governor of Minnesota was urging people Saturday. It's a video out there where he's urging them to fight, and they get out there, and it's now he's behind a gate, probably at his house,
Yep.
With security. Yeah.
right,
Yep.
and he's not out there leading them.
Mm-hmm. I said that on our last episode that he's using them to fight his fight for him.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the politicians are. Now, that's not leadership. Leadership, but I'll use King again, Dr. King. He's out in front. Mm-hmm. He's walking with the crowd, holding, arms together, saying, "Well, if they're gonna do anything, they're gonna do it to me too." And I'll go to jail with you. I'm gonna be out there fighting for what we believe in. What are they? These people now, the politicians we have now, are the leaders of these movements. They're sending out what I consider pawns, what they think are disposable followers. They don't matter. And that's the real sad thing, because these, the woman Good who was with the car and was shot, and now you have this guy. It's like you had some value. I mean, you had family, you had a life, but they're treating it like you don't have anything. Like, Governor Walz is too important to be out there. What did you go out there and belly up to the officer and see how that goes for you, Governor?
Yep. They don't. The Renee Good one too. That one I think was a little more clear cut than the one we just had with Border Patrol. But even that story, as soon as it came out, they immediately rushed to the podium to say, "Oh, I shot somebody dead in cold blood right in the middle of the street."
Right.
Instead of waiting for all the facts to come out and figure out what happened, it was condemn the ICE agents right away.
Yeah. And it's, the thing, I've always wondered about this, even in local shootings where we have police that shoot. And it's a tremendously difficult job for an officer. They have to make the decision so quickly. And I've always thought, it's not, even when they shoot, is it really murder? Are they really intending to murder someone? I mean, I think there's a big difference between, the guy that shoots his business partner in the head, or, poisons his spouse or something. He's intentionally trying to kill them. Yeah. Here, the officer, and maybe what happened in this one the other day, it may have been some kind of accidental shooting. I keep reading that the one officer took the gun and it discharged accidentally, perhaps, although I don't know if there's been an official report saying that. And then other officers there thought there was a shot and fired. Okay, you shouldn't have. It's negligence. But we have doctors who are in surgeries that make a mistake and the patient dies. We don't go in and cuff the doctor and say, "Well, you killed him." Yeah. Well, yeah, he killed him, but he didn't mean to kill him. He just, we hold the cops to these, standard that nobody else is held to. I think if it's a mistake, it's a mistake, and it'll be an unfortunate mistake. Yeah. But now if there's some officer out there intentionally shooting bad guys or what he thinks are criminals or whatever, then we got a problem. He's committing crimes too.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, I want to ask you if there's anything you're working on next. Like, are you planning on writing another book or anything? And then, if you just have any final thoughts.
Yes. I mean, I am writing another book. I just actually finished one and sent it off to the editor. for now, I'm going to stick to those comparison ones with historical issues. But I sent that one off. I started writing another one. I'd like to get that done rather quickly too, but it's not just me too. I have to wait for publishing and editing and all that stuff. And then they'll tell me, I wanted to actually send this last one out around Christmas, and I was told, well, nothing sells around Christmas unless you're going to do a Christmas story. I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me that? I didn't. We could compare Christmas from years ago. I don't know. We'll come up with something.
Yeah.
But I plan on continuing to write books. I like the process. Always liked writing. So this actually, it makes it easier to do now, I think. And, whether enough people read it, I don't know. It's, eventually, hopefully people read it, but I'm going to write them whether.
I'm getting a copy of the Aaron Burr one. I definitely want to read it. I had never heard of it until you reached out to us. But I definitely want to check it out now.
It's difficult to get the word out. I appreciate it that you guys are willing to have me on. Podcasts are a great way to do it because, I guess social media too. And I'm trying to readjust with that too. I found out, the first people that I was working with weren't great at publicizing anything, and now I have someone doing that, and hopefully this will be better as we restructure. I feel like I'm, a football team that maybe won like 3 games, and now next year I'm going to restructure and try to win 10 somehow with getting better people. But it's a good process. I do like it. We do have it. It's available on Amazon. It's available at Barnes and Noble. It's also available at other stores that, I'm not sure all their names, but I know those two. And my own website, which is authordennisbrennan.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, Dennis, we appreciate the time. We'd love to have you on again in the future if you're interested.
Sure.
But we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Great to talk to you.
All right. Take it easy, guys.
Have a good one.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
I really enjoyed that interview with Dennis. It was a good chat. We didn't have a schedule of topics or anything like that. We just hopped on the video chat and started talking. I recommend everyone check out Dennis's book. I just started reading it a few days ago, and it's pretty good. There's a lot of similarities between Aaron Burr and Donald Trump's stories. We put a link in the description to help you find Dennis and his work. Okay, now that we have rolled the interview with Dennis Brennan, let's get started with our updates segment. The first thing I want to get into with the ICE protests in Minnesota is a phone call between President Trump and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Trump posted on Truth Social Monday morning that Walz called him about what's going on in the state. Trump stated that the call was good and they were on a similar wavelength. He also mentioned in that post that they have had great success in cities like D.C., Memphis, and New Orleans. This is exactly what we've been saying. The places that have cooperated with ICE have had zero issues, even in the blue cities. Maybe Walz has finally had enough and realized that Trump isn't going to back down, and the faster he cooperates, the faster ICE will leave his state. Even local police union leaders have said that if they were allowed to help ICE and the federal agents, it would have prevented those shootings.
That was my thought. They should know Trump is never going to back down. I wonder if Tim Walz knew that Trump invoking the Insurrection Act would be politically damaging to those in Minnesota. I do not have a great opinion on most politicians. Power does things to people, and when they get power, they do not want to do anything to lose it. There are exceptions, of course. The people you see who are accomplished in other industries are less likely to care about the power, but I'm not willing to say that when you are dealing with people who have been in politics for a long time, they don't want the power. Tim Walz has been in this game for 19 years. First elected to office in 2007. I see Tim Walz as someone who wanted to stay in power but knows the scandals have ruined his chances. And to scare everyone a little bit, he was nearly the vice president.
Yeah, I can only imagine what this country would have looked like with Harris and Walz as the president and vice president.
Well, we know what it would look like. Most of the liberal countries in the world wanted a Harris presidency. But Vladimir Putin also wanted a Harris presidency.
Yeah.
Our enemies saw them as weak, but our allies saw them as friendly. And now that it's Trump, Trump's making them pay their own bills, and they don't like it.
Yep. I wonder how the people of Minnesota are going to take this news. If Walz is truly reaching out to cooperate, he's got to be upsetting the far-left activists. This, in my opinion, is another example of politicians lying to you. Publicly, they condemn ICE, but privately, they want the problem gone. Everything Walz said behind a microphone was for the activists. It also sounds like Jacob Fry is pandering to his audience as well. Fry stated that, quote, Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration laws. Trump posted on True Social today that he had a good conversation with Fry, and then Fry turned around and said that he wouldn't cooperate. Now, we know that Tom Homan was sent to Minnesota, and I haven't heard if there's been any progress on that front, but these Minnesota officials better learn. Trump is not going away.
I think deep down, even though they see these illegal immigrants as potential voters, they know that having all these illegal immigrants in their community makes life more expensive for the rest of the community. If you bring in thousands of people, that is thousands of people who also need housing and food and electricity. That will drive the price up of everything. That is why the right does not want so much immigration. The more you bring in, the more expensive things get. As a nation, we have not been building things for rapid population growth. And you touched on an important topic there. I think the most interesting thing will be the response from the far left. How do they respond? I still highly doubt they will pull back and pull the protesters off the streets. I would imagine they'll continue protesting and try to drive ICE out through violence.
Yeah, we all know that ain't going to happen. Did you happen to see the video of the protester who picked up that flashbang and tried to throw it back at law enforcement?
I have not seen the video.
Well, she was not fast enough, and it exploded in her hand. Then she's running around, falls into the snow, waiting for help. They ain't coming to help you. You just tried to throw it at the officers and hurt them. Why would anyone come help you? Hopefully there was a protester there who could help her that didn't get their degree in underwater basket weaving.
It is simple human nature to see someone who just tried to harm you as a potential threat. It's no secret ICE does not have the numbers they would want to do crowd control, so they're not leaving their own group and risking injury. As far as someone in the crowd who could help with a medical emergency, I kind of doubt it. I wouldn't expect a doctor or nurse to be out interfering with law enforcement when you consider how overworked they are. Who goes to a protest after a 12 or 16-hour shift?
Yeah, exactly. Another quick story that somehow didn't get the same wall-to-wall coverage I want to talk about is federal authorities are looking into a woman in New York who allegedly tried to buy a gun twice. And according to investigators, she didn't exactly keep her motivation vague. The reported reason? To protect herself from ICE agents and also to kill ICE agents. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure that's not what the Second Amendment had in mind. That's not self-defense. That's putting your manifesto in the comment box at checkout. Now, we're constantly told that all this anti-ICE rhetoric is just passionate disagreement and peaceful protest. But when that rhetoric gets so loud for so long, eventually someone takes it literally. This is what happens when political leaders and media figures spend years telling people that law enforcement is the enemy. Eventually, someone believes them. Maybe we should cool it with the abolish chants before someone actually tries to play Call of Duty in the streets.
I have said repeatedly that if you compare someone to an evil figure, people will get it in their mind that it is fine to take that person out. That is why the left has made 2 attempts on President Trump. The left said for years that Trump was the same as Hitler, so a few crazy people thought it was okay to try and take his life. It is never the responsibility of the politicians when someone tries to commit an act of violence. People have to be responsible for their own actions. But don't go to the mic every chance you get and compare him to someone evil who committed a bunch of atrocities. You may not like the person, but in the bigger picture, they really aren't that bad. Deep down, if you asked yourself, would you rather be dealing with Donald Trump or Adolf Hitler? Which one would you rather have? I can tell you only one of them sent people to gas chambers.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next topic that involves ICE. Now, stop me if you've heard this before, Matt. Funding for many federal agencies ends on Friday, January 30th. Washington is flirting with another government shutdown, and I'll give you one guess what this one's really about. This time, the fight is over ICE funding. Democrats in the Senate are openly threatening to block funding for parts of the government unless Republicans agree to major changes to immigration enforcement. Basically, they're saying, change ICE or we shut things down. And let's just call it what it is. This is about using a shutdown as a weapon because they don't like immigration law being enforced. What's especially wild is the timing. We just watched weeks of protests, riots, blocked streets, and interference with federal agents, and now how convenient that it's time to discuss the budget for ICE. Now, here's the part they don't advertise. Even if there is a shutdown, ICE is going to keep operating. So the agency they're mad at doesn't stop working, but millions of other regular government employees will miss their paychecks, and Democrats have already proven that they don't care. This has become a pattern for the left. Hold everyone's paychecks hostage and then blame Republicans for it. We've done this shutdown dance enough times to know how it ends. There'll be dramatic press conferences, cable news countdown clocks, a lot of this, oh, this is unprecedented, and then eventually we'll have a short-term deal that kicks the can down the road.
I was quite bummed when I saw this topic. I was hoping we had covered government shutdowns enough the last time because it really felt like it dragged on for a long time.
Yeah, we talked about it every day for, what, a month and a half?
Over a month, yeah. It'll be very similar as the last shutdown. It will drag on until one side feels the pressure to cave and reopen the government. It will come down to political sentiment of the voters to decide who is at fault for the shutdown. Both sides, when this shutdown starts, will run to the media and blame the other side. As you said, ICE is considered essential, so the work will continue, but they will go without a paycheck. I think you're right, Mike. I don't think the left cares. How many of the government employees had to turn to debt to pay the bills during the last shutdown? Most people do not have significant savings, so many likely had to take out a loan or use credit cards that they're probably still repaying. Now we're going to take the paychecks away again and potentially make it worse. I would be shocked if the shutdown went anywhere near the length of the last one, but given you have people who are probably still repaying some debt from that last shutdown, I think it'll hurt even more.
And I really hope that these Democrats understand the other part that's going to be affected by this, and that is the IRS. It is right in the middle of tax season, so all these people that are going to be waiting for their tax refunds, you might be waiting a while. This is going to put a strain on how quickly they can get that stuff done.
I wonder if that's part of their calculation. They're blaming Trump for the affordability crisis, which was mostly thanks to Joe Biden. Inflation under Trump has been under 3% for the vast majority of his term so far. Things got very expensive when it was Joe Biden. Trump does have some wins on that front. Gas is under $2.50. In some places, you can get gas for $2 a gallon.
What makes no sense is why Democrats are always saying that they care about these federal workers and the working man, but then they turn around and put their paychecks at risk.
Oh, they don't care. It's all about politics. Federal workers are simply the pawns. The left sees this as an opportunity to score political points that could help them in the midterms. Politics is the only thing that matters to the vast majority of them. It's the same with the right. Why do you think Trump is out campaigning again? It's to get votes out for the midterm. And I feel a bit vindicated here because I've said many times that the long-term outlook in the West is simply the next election, and this is another example of that. This is going to be a topic for a while, I would imagine.
Yeah. All right, now it's time for something funny. At least I think this is funny. So apparently we've reached that time of year again where PETA has beef with a groundhog. Yep, you heard me right. A 170-year-old rodent tradition. PETA is now asking that Punxsutawney Phil be retired and replaced with a hologram, because nothing says tradition like a CGI hamster powered by Wi-Fi. Their argument is that Phil should be allowed to live peacefully in a sanctuary instead of being briefly lifted out of a box once a year. Meanwhile, Phil lives a better life than most Americans. Climate-controlled burrow, personal handlers, healthcare, media appearances. This guy has better job security than cable news anchors. It's not exactly extreme stress. He pops out, sees the shadow, and goes back inside. This is the one tradition where everyone knows it's ridiculous and we all agree to enjoy it anyway. Just a groundhog and the 6 more weeks of winter that we were going to get anyway. If we replace Phil with a hologram, what's next? Hologram Santa? Virtual fireworks? AI Easter Bunny? Why can't we just leave Phil alone? Let the groundhog do his thing. If we can't handle a chubby rodent predicting the weather once a year, we are not built for much else.
I'm curious, does PETA want to put him back in the wild? Does PETA know what happens in the wild? Even when humans are not involved, it's brutal. Survival is not a given in the wilderness. Go watch the Discovery Channel or Animal Planet and see how the animals live. This groundhog has a pretty easy life. He has 5 minutes of work to do each year. In exchange, his room and board are taken care of, and he never has to worry about finding his next meal. Not a bad deal. I think most Americans would take that.
Sign me up.
But it's PETA, which has done many stupid things. They know how ridiculous it is, but they can't help it. This is the same organization who claimed that drinking milk causes autism and compared eating meat to slavery. It's shock activism, and it usually fails.
All right, well, let's move on to our blind ranking segment. We got a brand new one tonight. This should be pretty fun. For this blind ranking, Matt, I want you to pretend that I have been elected as the President of the United States, and I have offered you any position you want. Now, assuming that you're qualified for any position, rank these positions based on which one you would most want. Ready?
Let's go for it. I'm leaving number 1 open for something very specific.
All right, your first one is the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio's job.
It would depend on my boss how politically correct he is, given it's you. I'm going to put that one number 3.
Number 3.
I could probably say anything I wanted. So.
Yeah. All right, next up you have Attorney General.
I don't think I would love to be Attorney General. I'm going to go 4 on that one.
Okay, next up you have the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
It would depend on my boss again. Can I run around telling people stop eating crap and tell them they're built like a refrigerator?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think I'm going to put that one at number 2.
Number 2. Okay.
I can be more crass than Bobby Kennedy.
Next up, you have Secretary of War.
Number 1.
I knew that's where you were
I don't
going.
know what my boss wants, but you want me to take Greenland? I'll do it.
All right. And in your number 5 spot, you are the White House Chief of Staff.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Not bad. I think you did pretty good. Secretary of War 1, Health and Human Services 2, Secretary of State 3, Attorney General 4, and Chief of Staff number 5. Not bad.
I'm happy with that list.
All right, that's it for episode 31 of the Republic Brothers podcast. If you're still listening, you're exactly who this podcast is for. Before you click away, do us a favor, hit the subscribe and share button, hit the follow button. New episodes drop every Monday and Thursday. If you agree or disagree with anything we talked about, drop a comment and let us know. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.